So I think that's something that we always really hope. And quite often, when people are choosing to use a donor, they choose a donor that looks like them and resembles them, because they want to have that close match with their child. They don't want it to be obvious to a stranger in the street that they're not genetically related. And yeah, our donor on paper looked like me. I never saw a photo of her. Um, and that was probably one of my biggest worries whilst I was pregnant. Like, what would my baby look like? Which at the time I felt really shallow for, but it was something that was very, very real. I knew that they would have features of my husband. But yeah, it was all a bit of an unknown apart from that, which is very hard to deal with. Um, but once my children were born, I thought less about them looking like me and I saw them for who they are themselves. And that's really kind of what I've come to learn, is that you you create a unique individual person, and you are very involved in that, carrying that person epigenetically. You're switching on and expressing certain genes, but there is a level of acceptance in knowing that you won't necessarily see your family eye shape or your family nose in that child. But what I have found, and as my girls are now 5 and 3, is that you will see yourself in them in so many other ways that are brought about by nurture. So I see my mannerisms, I hear myself in how they speak, and many people say how they're like me in personality. And that's just through time spent together and nurture. So I think you need to be realistic and know you are not going to produce a mini me when you're using donor eggs, as much as you may try. But to know that you still are playing a hugely important role in giving them life, and epigenetically, the environment that you create will help shape that individual person, and then you nurture them from day one, and that helps them become who they're going to be. So if somebody says to you, oh, I don't know whether they look like you, my best response is, well, I just think they look like themselves, or they're just beautiful the way they are. And that's just a way of reframing it where the person can't come back to you, and ask any more probing questions, but it's also the truth, because they do look like themselves. They're just so unique and individual, and I love them for it. Even the traits that must come from the donor as well. At first I would have really struggled with thinking about those, like, oh, is it going to be really obvious? But my eldest daughter has really curly hair, which isn't anywhere in my husband's line in the family. So that must come from our donor, and we celebrate that, and she knows that, and she thinks that the donor must have put a curl inside the egg that she gave us. So yeah, I think it's hard to accept, but there are other ways you can think about how that child might be like you.